Welcome today. We're going to talk about kind of different ways to organize content inside of WT class. This can be for online classes. This can be for face-to-face classes. This can be for the HyFlex classes. Basically, any kind of class, any kind of information you're putting inside a WT class, you can essentially look at these different kinds of ways to organize your content to kind of help your students with organization within the course. So today we're looking at, I'm going to give some examples and kind of talk through some different things, kind of some of the pros, the cons, to some of the different ways that you can organize some of your content. But then I also want to get y'all's input. What are you doing in your classes? What do you do in your face-to-face classes that you're looking to figure out, okay, now how does that then translate into an online class or into the online system, at least into WT class? And looking at some of those different things as well. So later on, I'll be asking for input from everyone else as well. So I'm asking everyone right now to leave their audio muted, but later on down the way, we're going to have people unmute their mics as they want to talk. But I am going to ask when you're not actively talking to mute yourselves. It helps to prevent some of that feedback that goes on or those background noises, the dogs barking, other things like that. And so we're going to try to reduce some of those kind of outward noises that might be going on. I've been talking with my video on. I'm going to stop my video as well. I don't have the best internet at home right now, so I want to try to prevent as much extra kind of information going through. So I am going to stop my video for now, just so it's a little less information traveling back and forth. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to chime in at any time if you have anything that you want to ask, or put it in the chat. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat to see if there's anything that I need to address there as well. All right, so moving on here. So there's several different ways for how you can organize your content. And my examples that I have here really are just some ideas of things. You can do it by weeks, you can do it by units, you can do it by chapters, you can do it by modules, you can do it by lessons, you can call it whatever you want it to be. You can do combinations of different things. It doesn't necessarily matter how you structure it. It's a lot of the important best practices for your course structure is making sure that it is simple, it is clear, and your students understand how it is, how your content is laid out. If there's anything that's kind of odd, anything that's kind of different, explaining that to your students somewhere, whether that's in a written text or a video, just providing that information to students so that they know how this course is actually gonna work throughout the semester. So just giving a couple of examples. These are kind of the single sections, everything you put inside of lessons. And then you have, a unit, a week, a module, a chapter, whatever you want to call it. And then basically all of your material for that section of material is contained within that folder or learning module. Again, you can title it anything you want it to be. It doesn't necessarily matter. It could be topics instead. Instead of you calling it Unit 1, it could be over your specific topic of material that you're covering. Maybe it's Eastern Europe or something like that. So it doesn't really matter necessarily how you label it. It's about, is it understandable to your students then as to what information they're going to find inside of there. Again, these two examples that I have on here, these two little kind of screenshots, are just basically, you have the lessons area, your students would click on lessons. Inside of lessons, they'd have each one of these kind of folders or learning modules. And then inside of that, all of the material that students would be using would then be placed inside of that particular section of material. How I kind of refer this to, and you may have heard me talk about this if you came to the moving from remote to online teaching, it's like the grocery store. If you go to the grocery store and you're having students go to different aisles to find each of their materials. So they go to aisle 1 to get their PowerPoint, their lecture material. Then they go to aisle 2 to get their assignment. Then they go to aisle 3 to get their discussion. They go to aisle 4 to get their test. Now they're going through several aisles to find all of their different stuff, all due within the same kind of time frame. Where the idea of this is then And instead of going into each aisle, now you go into the unit 1 aisle or the week 1 aisle, and you find everything all on one aisle. It's kind of like your grocery pickup. You just show up to Walmart or United or wherever you're going to go shopping, and they bring you out your bags that have everything in it. And so that's kind of the idea behind this, is that everything that the student would be completing in this section of material is all contained within one area. So they're not having to search around for finding what all is due this week or in this time period. So from there, you of course always have kind of a combination of different things that not necessarily, they don't always fit nicely into your 16-week course, or however many weeks you may have in your course, depending on the course. It may not always fall nicely in to have those exact number. So here's just kind of a couple of different examples. I do have a comment labeling the folders with the names of the chapters to give students another hint as to what we're doing then. It helps, that definitely helps, so that they know exactly what chapters they're covering, material they're covering within that, including the dates for that. When is it actually available for them? When is things due? That's also very good to include in there. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. So like I mentioned, the kind of combinations. So here, the one on the left, again, this idea is still, if you put it all in the lessons, your students click on lessons, then they would click on a module 1 folder or module 1 learning module, and then inside of that container, inside that like folder, would be multiple chapters. And so all of that module 1 is then due at one time. And instead of breaking it down and say, okay, students are supposed to do chapter 1 on this day, and chapter 2 on this day, and chapter 3 on this day, then you can say, okay, during this week or maybe 2 weeks time period, you need to complete all 3 of these chapters within that time. And it gives students a little bit more flexibility of when they're able to do things, because it's not, Tuesday they do chapter 1, Thursday they do chapter 2, and then over the weekend they're going to do chapter 3. Now they have a flexibility to do chapter 1 Monday, chapter 2 Tuesday, chapter 3 Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or all on Sunday, or whenever they want to do it. They have a little bit more flexibility by kind of grouping those things together. Alternatively, the one on the right is kind of more like I was mentioning with the grocery shopping, where they're going to each individual aisle. All your lecture materials are in one area, all your assignments are another, all your discussions are another. There is valid reasons for this depending on how your course is structured. Sometimes your course doesn't match individual weeks of time or chapters or something like that. And sometimes this method does make sense in some cases. I see a lot more graduate level courses that this fits, because there's not a real good structure of things. Your assignments go over several weeks or units. And in that case, I would say if you have multiple weeks that they're going to be working on an assignment, you always reference back to that assignment. Don't forget this assignment that is in the assignments folder, and mentioning, always going back to that to remind them that they need to be working on that, so they don't get to that last week that it's due and then it's, oh, I've been supposed to be working on this for 3 weeks, but I haven't been because I didn't think about it. Reminding them back to those things. And maybe they do discussions every other week or every third week. So necessarily having them in every single area isn't as necessary. Or maybe they're required to do posts in 1 week, but responses in another week. So there are reasons for doing it under this more grocery style shopping method. It looks to, what do you have in your course? How do you have your course structured, and what is best? I always like to come back to, if you are teaching a fully online class, you need to remember that students are expecting to be able to have more time to do their assignments and stuff than just the normal Monday, Wednesday class time or Tuesday, Thursday class time. It's really hard to assign things to say, okay, you're going to do this on Tuesday and it's going to be due on Thursday. And then you're going to do this on Thursday and then it's going to be due next Tuesday or on Saturday. They really like to have a little bit more broader time. Okay, everything that's due this week, I need to have done by this date. So giving them a little bit more flexibility with some of those things really helps your students out. You can always have things that are due very specifically, especially like tests, midterms, finals, not allowing them to have a whole week to take the test. Locking those down a little bit more has very valid reasons for that. But in general, most things we recommend you giving them a little bit more flexibility. Some of these things you can move to the course menu. So instead of students going to the lessons area, they might actually have these titled items in the course menu. So they might have module 1, module 2, module 3 in the course menu, or lecture materials, assignments, discussions, group project in the course menu. Along with that, it's thinking through what are you going to put in that course menu. You know how long the course menu is already. Some of those things you might not need. Send email versus course messages being one for sure that you want to remove one of those. But some things you might want to look at and think about if you decide you want to remove the lessons area and move all those items to the course menu. You know, how long do you want that menu to be? How many clicks are you having your students or you take to get to material? This could be a positive for moving your things out of the lessons area and into the course menu. What is the most important information that you want students to be able to access to get to? And that's one of the big things to look at for what you want to add to that course menu. But I always like to disclaimer, you really can't add dates to control things that open and close for things that are on the menu. You basically have to manually go in and turn something on when it's time for it to become available. So if you're one of those people that really wants to have something magically appear without you having to come in and turn it on each week or each module, then you may not want to do this because it is harder to do dates on individual course menu items. It's easier to set them into lessons and have each one of those items open from within lessons. And that's part of the reason why we have it structured that way, is so that you can control those easier from within a lessons area versus trying to figure out how to get it done on the course menu. So I want to take just a minute, I think, let me see, yes, and just show a couple of examples of courses for different kind of structures, just to give a little bit of an idea, because sometimes seeing just these kind of vague references can be hard to understand. What exactly does this really mean? So let me switch over here to Firefox real quick, and I have a few examples. Go away, my control system is popping up over everything. There we go. All right, so here is one example of a course, and let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone. These are courses that I've taught before. I didn't want to worry about anybody saying, that's my course, don't show my course. So I just have a couple of different things that I've taught before that I've structured in different ways for different reasons. So this first one, again, everything is under the lessons area. So it has a few different kind of information as well. The getting started area is a learning module, but then I actually have my folders in different modules instead of using learning modules throughout the entire thing. But you do notice that like Jean Stuntz, Dr. Stuntz mentioned that putting due dates on each one of these folders. This helps students as soon as they come into this course to understand as my folders became available, when is this due for my students? If you look at my availability dates, you also notice I actually gave some leeway on the back end in case somebody turned something in late. I needed to give an extension. It was already built into that system, so I didn't have to extend anything. And so this is just one of the ways that I have things structured inside of these individual folders. I then, like I mentioned, I have everything for that particular module. So all of my text I have additional folders in here for each one of my activities that I have them do, tests, all of that is then controlled within this. So everything that is for this module is all due essentially at the same time, and they can find it all within one module. Let's see, I have another comment. Let's see, I'm not sure if it's helpful to my students, but I also, an estimated time that it takes to complete module readings. Oh, absolutely. Having that information on how long they can expect to take to complete an assignment, complete reading, all of those things is very useful for students. It helps them understand how much time should they be taking to do stuff. A lot of students, we have some misconceptions quite often in online classes that, oh, it's an online class, so I don't have to go to class. My class normally would take me, 2 to 3 hours time. Well, now because I'm doing it online, I don't have to sit in class for 3 hours. So I'm not going to have to do 3 hours worth of work. Well, in an online class, the idea is that then you're reading more, you're watching more videos, you're doing other things so that you're still using those 3 hours time. You're just not sitting in a classroom necessarily. And so sometimes giving those estimated time for how long each thing should take can be very helpful to students, especially the lower level classes, freshman level, sophomore level, understanding how much time does an online class really take in comparison to a face-to-face class. And there they can better understand those differences. That's a great thing to mention, estimated time. I know a lot of faculty like to put that in to show students. Let's see, another comment. I try to minimize the direct references to a specific book and focus more on concepts in case I want to change the textbook for a new one. Yes, that is definitely one thing that we recommend often when you're creating videos. Don't teach a chapter video. So in today's chapter 2, we're going to discuss this, this, and this. Look at creating smaller videos that focus on a concept. The same thing can be within courses and the material that you present. Teaching to a concept. So instead of teaching to chapter 2, you teach each one of the concepts that are in chapter 2 in separate components, separate PowerPoints, separate information within WT class, separate videos, chunking those down so that if you do change the textbook and it rearranges content, you just rearrange where your content is located without having to worry about redoing all of that material completely. You just figure out where does this content need to go, or does it need to become supplemental or an additional unit or something like that for something that might not be covered in a textbook. That is another great way to work through material in a class. So I kind of showed that one version. Let me show another one here. So this is the same course. Mostly all I'm just showing that I changed up the structure one year. Instead of doing it in folders, I did it in learning modules. I also added, instead of just having the due dates, I also added what will actually be completed there. So this gave students a checklist before even going into that module of what will they be completing in that particular unit of instruction, that different section. And by all means, please keep giving me your ideas of things that you're doing as well. What is the difference in functionality between a folder and a module? Okay, so let me come back over here. So as a folder, a student clicks on the folder and you can see everything is aligned just right here, one item after another. You click on folders to go inside of folders. And so you just see everything on one page. Where alternatively a module, I'm going to click in here, and I think I was in module 3, so it should be basically the same thing. So inside of a module, so I want to show this from an instructor point of view real quick. From an instructor point of view, notice all that same information is still there. It's just appearing all on one page. However, if you go into your student preview mode for this, and then I go into that same module, you'll notice that we have a table of contents over on the left that students could click to move directly to an area. So if they knew that they needed to go to activity 4, they could click straight there. And then as I scroll down, notice I hit my first end of this page and it just has one page of text. Then I click on my next arrow to get to the next page of text. The idea, the theory behind this is the cognitive load theory, that you don't overwhelm students with too much information on one particular page. You force them to move to a new page of text, giving them that short mental break that can help them, re-engage them back into the material essentially again. It's just a different structure. There's nothing really different other than how it displays. Like Vanessa mentioned, learning modules aren't always as good for phones or tablets. They do take up space. You notice my text here is being cut off because it's become too far, too long. So you have to be careful with this. In some ways, you may have to rethink the structure or your titling of some things. If you ever use learning modules, I always recommend preview it often. Make sure you understand how things are displayed. One of the most common things that we see is folders. So here is a folder. You can see over here on the left, there's a folder with an item inside a folder. We have a lot of people that when they look at it, they see, okay, folder, activity 2. Students are going to click on the folder and they're going to go inside the folder and then they're going to see the material. Well, in a learning module, when they get to that folder, they see an empty page unless you put text on the folder. Oh, somebody is saying they can't hear. Let me right here. There's all right. Maybe somebody who just didn't get connected to the audio would be my assumption, my first assumption. Okay, so sorry. So we have then, like I said, they come to this empty folder. So I'm going to scoot back over here. So you notice here in my module here, I don't have any text below here. If this was a learning module, when a student hit this module 3, activity 3 folder, they would see a blank page. So you want to make sure that you view it as a student often so that you can see what are students actually seeing. Are they coming to a blank, empty page? Because that can be very confusing for students when they come to this and they say, oh, well, there's nothing here. They think, well, maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it's not available to me yet. And they don't necessarily move on from there. They just kind of stop and don't realize they still have additional things in here. So that's kind of the difference. It's really just the layout between a folder and a module. It's just how does that display to students? You as an instructor can see it the same way. There's neither one is a better way of doing it. It really comes down to your preference and how exactly do you want it to appear to students. So let me exit out of here one more time. And then I'm going to show one additional kind of example. So here's one more example, and this is where all the different items are in the course menu. You notice that now my course menu is becoming very long because I have my lessons area, my handouts, my quizzes, technology tips, assignments. I have all of that in the course menu. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding the differences here. Like I said, the main thing here with doing it this way is that I can't control dates except for on the actual individual items themselves. I have to go into those to be able to control the dates. When I have it grouped by topic, it's not as big of a deal because I know within quiz, every week I'm going to have a new quiz that's going to be available. Where if I did module 1, module 2, module 3, I might not want module 3 available yet, but I do want module 1 open or module 2 open. And that becomes more difficult to set those settings up from the actual course menu, or if I place them all inside of lessons, I could do. So those were just kind of 3 different examples I kind of wanted to show kind of quickly so you kind of understood there are different ways to do it. No way is the best way. It really comes down to what do you have in your course and what works best for your particular course and your particular content. So from there, oh, come on, computer here. All right, so I wanted to take some time to see what do you do? What are things that you do in your course? Whether that's you're doing it in a face-to-face course and are trying to figure out now how does that transfer into the online environment? Whether that is a face-to-face class that you're just going to put material in online for any of those students that choose to potentially not come to class. For whether it's just for a particular class time or for the entire semester, or if you're teaching a fully online class, what are the different things that you do in your class? And like I said, feel free to come off the mic, and let's, talk through different things, get some suggestions and ideas.
So I guess I do have a question. So right now I'm pretty comfortable with putting everything into learning modules. I do kind of still question where I should put assignments. I do like the concept of the grocery store and having everything for that module to be or everything that you need to complete that module to be located in one spot. But I do have some assignments that are a little bit longer. So in some cases, the entire semester, and so they never really fit into one module. And so, is there any insight to do I really need to try to keep it within a certain module, or is it okay just to have a tab separate for all the assignments?
So absolutely, you can always put a tab separate for those things that kind of work over longer periods of time, like your assignments. I do like to mention, let me, escape out of here. So one thing that you can also do, let me come to my empty course over here, is under build content, there is also this option for course link. So you could link back to those assignments also within each particular folder that you have. So if you have like a midterm paper and then a final paper, and they might be two different things or something like that, each week or each module leading up to the midterm, you add a course link back to that midterm paper to remind students this is a midterm paper or this is the final paper, and that they need to be looking at it and working on it and across multiple weeks. You could link them to the assignments folder, or you could link them specifically to the specific assignment, depending on how you have like the information related to that assignment structured. So yeah, those are absolutely very valid reasons for having a different section for something more specific. And then within each module, you have your individual like quizzes or tests or something, discussion boards and material related to those.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks. I didn't know that about the course link. That'll be pretty handy.
Yes, not a lot of people know about this. The downside to this is it is a specific link item type of thing, where you can't do it like within text. Sometimes people want to put things where it's actually within the text that says you're going to complete assignment 1 and click here. You can't do that within text. It is a separate item that students can click on to take them somewhere else in the course.
Just to give another option for Troy, one of the things that I do is I have some separate folders that I call mandatory assignments, and I put them throughout after a certain module. So for instance, if I have 12 modules, I'm going to have mandatory assignments to complete after module 3. And it's in each of the modules, I remind them that they need to go to that mandatory assignment also. So it's separate, but at the same time, there's a reminder every time in each of the modules leading to that final assignment. And so that's another way to do it, so that they see it repeatedly, but it's still a separate thing that they can access without going inside a module.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think that's a really good idea. Definitely probably going to use that as a reminder.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
I have a question on a discussion board. Sometimes I want the students, to start a discussion on the topic. There's a topic that I give and they have to start discussing, but I want them to respond to another student. Is there any way that I can make a deadline for the initial post and then a deadline for the actual assignment? Because usually what I do currently is I tell them, if I give them a week to do the post, I give 3 days to do the initial post, and then 3 days to respond to another classmate. But that forces me to actually look at the initial post, and I cannot put the deadline until the actual responses. And so is there any way that we can do, basically have two deadlines?
No, not really, unfortunately. And Blackboard doesn't do like separate types of deadlines for that. What I have done in the past is I have set the due date for the initial post, and then edit it for, the following day. I edit it then for the response posts. Basically why I do that though, while it's not something that I can specifically track within the system, I do that so that any of the notification areas that students might look at for when things are due, they see that first due date when their initial posts are due, and it kind of gives them a mental reminder, oh yeah, I got to go in and do that. And then I change it for the responses to that later date. The downside is it's not something you can set up ahead of time other than that first date. You do have to go back in and change it. I do know it is something that I've asked Blackboard to add in as a functionality of some form. That doesn't mean that it'll ever be done, but it is one of those things I have mentioned as would be awesome to have.
Yeah, it would be great. I mean, as it is right now, the way I do it is I actually, at the very beginning of the class, I established a timeline for every discussion board that will require answers. And so they know exactly that they have 3 days and 3 days.
Yep.
But, I mean, we're not, and they're not immune to forgetting things. And so it's just, it's hard not to have for them, I think, some hard deadlines for that first post.
Yep.
But that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yep. And it is hard to sometimes then whenever you're going back in and grading and checking, did you submit the first one on time? And then did you submit the rest on time?
Correct.
This is Jean, and I'm pretty hard ass about this. So they have a definite due date for their initial post. So the next day I go in and I put a post of my own that says post after this or late, contact Dr. Stuntz to give documentation for why this is late. And I go ahead and put a 0 on the grades of people who haven't posted by then. That way I'll know who has posted and who didn't.
That's a good idea, Jen. Thank you. Yeah, I've been pretty not super lenient in it, but I know in the spring I've been a little bit more lenient than I have been in the past.
Yeah.
But
Really
for
only have
understandable.
to do that for the first week or two, and then they get it, and
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, they're very trainable, actually.
That is a great idea.
That's true. It's amazing when you put a 0, how quick a response you usually get, right?
Oh yes, it is
Right.
a quick reminder.
I have another question since nobody is just video size. I have my students perform activities and post the videos. Do you recommend some of the videos that we have are rather large, and so in the past I've had some issues with the size of the video. So what I have done is ask the students to create a private YouTube channel and post the link of the private YouTube channel so that I can check their video. Do you have, what is the actual limit in terms of megs for a student to post? And do you have any alternative solutions that would work? I mean, the YouTube channel works and it's private. So this is, and I tell them if they want to make it public, they can, but it's their choice. But do you have any alternative ways that we could do that for, personal protection? I don't put any grades or anything. I don't comment, but educational privacy always is important.
Yes. So we have different ways that we recommend. One way is, like you said, doing it through YouTube as an unlisted video. They can also, so in WT class, there is a 150 megabyte limit, I believe. I can never remember if it's 100 or 150, but I'm pretty sure it's 150 megabyte limit. It's the same thing as faculty. It's across the board. No one can upload anything larger than that file size. So the same rings true for any videos that students might be uploading. So again, they can do it through YouTube. They can also, as Troy mentioned, having them uploaded into the OneDrive. Every student has a OneDrive account, as do you as faculty. They can upload it into OneDrive, then they get the share URL, and then can send that to you in whatever method that you want it in. We have a lot of faculty that still do assignments and they submit it into the assignment. And so then the faculty then just clicks on the link or copies and pastes the link to get to the YouTube to be able to view the video that way. You do get 1 terabyte of storage. Students get 1 terabyte of storage so that they have all of that, that access. And so we have instructions, I believe, for both YouTube and using OneDrive for how to share those out on our students' website I believe they're both under assignments.
Okay, thanks. Because some of the videos that we have are like 350 megs, and so it can be a little bit challenging. And yeah, so the OneDrive, the problem is as soon as they have 5 or 6 or 7 videos, it takes up a lot of space, even in their OneDrive.
Well, they have 1 terabyte. So if it's a 350 megabyte file every single time, that, that's still 3 to 4 videos per gig plus another 100. So they should be able to still post, hundreds of videos.
I do understand that I'm not the only class, though.
Well,
so
the nice thing about OneDrive is that it is in the cloud, so it's not actual WT storage.
Okay.
So everyone has 1 terabyte, and it's not something we have to worry about storage-wise because it's not specifically on our campus.
Okay. That works. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment about that as well. My son-in-law is Andrew White, that used to work there at the HELC and everything. And when I was a graduate student, I was asked to do some videos. I'm in the nursing department, and was instructed to load them into YouTube. And my family, that is pretty knowledgeable, way above me on all the nuances of technology, about freaked out, because it's really, you cannot say, at least this is my understanding from what they tell me, is that even doing privacy on YouTube, there is pretty simple hacks into that. And Dr. Fiad, you had mentioned about, making sure that our students are have privacy and, the institutional confidentiality and all those kind of things. And so back then, before we had OneDrive, I actually put my videos on a flash drive and hand delivered them to my instructor to try to bypass that, because I was using my family as patients, and and it just can really present some real problems, and I don't want any of our students to feel compromised, or they're pretty liberal with YouTube, but I think as an institution, we probably need to be real cautious about that. And the OneDrive was a huge improvement, and so I've been using that the last semester or so since we've had that going, and the students love it, and there's no problem with how big the video is and all those kind of things. So I think using OneDrive and putting that on the cloud is probably in our best interest as a university. Now, I may be speaking way out of my league here, but anyway, that's my understanding. So.
Yes. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, we do have some classes, education, when they're videotaping, kids in a classroom, counseling when they're videotaping sessions with other people, that now it's under HIPAA data as well. that, yeah, those are definitely ones where we say you really need to do this through OneDrive, simply because you don't want to take the chance of the student who's uploading it accidentally making it public. And so putting it in OneDrive, now if a person shares it, they are sharing something, and so they know they're clicking share, where in OneDrive it can be kind of easy to lose.
I have a quick question, and I want to ask kind of everybody, what is the best day that you found is for deadlines? I know that Friday night is absolutely the worst day ever in terms of for IT. That's when they do most of their updates. But have you found any day that is better than others for the students, that they're responding better? My experience is that Monday night was after the weekend was usually a good one. So I don't know what everybody else has experienced.
So I'll tell you mine. I always have all of mine due on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. And why I do that is because if you need to do your work on the weekends, you have the weekend, and then you have Monday, Tuesday, and or Wednesday to get technical support, get additional questions answered from me when I know I'm going to be basically available for sure, where the weekend I might not be quite so available. So I always put mine on Tuesdays or Wednesdays to help with those. Every once in a while, I would get a student that would say, well, I just can't do assignments on Tuesday. And I would turn around and say, well, then for you, assignments are due on Sunday night. And you know what? If you have to turn it late on Monday or Tuesday, there you go. You got a couple extra days. And they'd always laugh and come back and say, oh, I didn't even think about doing it that way. So that's what I always did. But I want to get everyone else's opinion on that too.
This is Jean again. I'm always happy to talk. Yes, not on Fridays, never on Fridays. I've had students complain about having due dates on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because they want everything done on Sunday, and they don't seem to understand about doing it early. I need a better way to explain to them that, yes, you can turn it in on Sunday, that's fine, but I don't know, they're working on the weekends, they want the due date on the weekends. I will also add that I've tried different times to turn things in, like have things due at noon, so I know that I can be on the computer if they're having any problems, and they hate it. They want it done at 11:59 p.m. and they will complain and complain and complain if it's at any other time. Again, they don't get the idea that they can do it the day before and still get credit for it. But yeah, any day but Friday. And I personally don't like to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday deadlines because you never know what religion your students might be, and they may not like having a deadline on their holy day. So that's why I don't have deadlines on the weekends. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are all pretty good.
And as IT, I don't like when people do Saturday and Sunday nights as due dates either, because I like to have my weekends, and I don't necessarily like to have to be watching for issues with students that students may be having. But that's a personal preference on that account.
I mean, that's a good point, Krista, because since the students are going to be reaching out to you guys if they have a problem, we're all working together in this. So it's always good to know when is the best days also for you to be available. And so, to me, it's a team effort. So
I appreciate that. And I do see that there's a comment that, agreeing with Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday evening nights. So I do want to remind everyone about different things that we do have. We do have templates for courses. If you came to our course templates workshop last week, I believe, or the week before, we do have course templates that you're welcome to use in different ways if you're interested in those. We do still have one additional training scheduled for next week, a learning share on how to do engagement with students, some ideas on different ways to do that. We always offer one-on-one trainings. If you're interested in one-on-one trainings, please let us know. I'll follow up. It'll probably be Monday. with us having the ability to be out tomorrow. It'll probably be Monday before I get to email everybody, not only with a recording of this, but also additional information such as a survey on how the session was, as well as our contact information. So if you are interested in getting some one-on-one help, if you want us to help you look over your syllabus and, you know, for your face-to-face class, now what do I do to translate that online? What are kind of best ideas for this? Please let us know and we would be happy to help. We are going to offer additional trainings in July. We're still working on trying to figure out what exactly would be best and stuff like that. So if anyone ever has any ideas, please feel free to let us know, because we want to make sure that we offer trainings that are relevant to, you know, the faculty. So please let us know if there's something that you're really hoping that we are offering coming up in the future. And then, so lastly, I am going to put up kind of our information here if you're interested in getting it right now for how to contact any one of us. Again, one-on-ones, we can do it via Zoom, so you don't have to meet with us, and we can still show each other screens and stuff like that. So don't worry about any of that. Please let us know if you need help, if you want help, how we can help you, anything like that. And that is all that I have for y'all today. I do want to thank y'all for coming and spending some time kind of talking through designing courses and kind of some of the best practices and ideas. There's no right way to do it. It's all personal opinion. And then just really thinking through how does this work from your student side of things and what is easiest to students, and making sure they understand the process and the layout. So thank you. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day and weekend coming soon. Thank you, everyone.